Even before he got all his crazy god-level upgrades, Madara was already a walking cheat code. Just his base chakra was so massive and intensely dark that people were terrified just standing near him. In pure hand-to-hand combat, he could literally drop into a battlefield against thousands of trained ninja and just dance through their ranks, dodging and countering every single attack like he was reading their mind. Then you factor in his visual powers. By unlocking the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, he could summon the perfect Susanoo. We're talking about a colossal, indestructible suit of chakra armor that towered over the battlefield. A single casual swing from its sword was enough to literally slice the tops off nearby mountains. But Madara wasn't satisfied with just that. He actually took the DNA of his absolute strongest rival, Hashirama, and implanted it into his own body. That completely broke the scale, giving him instant, rapid healing and the ability to use wood release. Fusing those powers eventually let him unlock the ultimate eye technique, the Rinnegan. Think back to when he casually pulled literal meteors out of the sky just to test his powers on the allied shinobi forces. That was him barely even trying. His absolute peak, though, was when he absorbed the Ten Tails and became its host. At that point, he wasn't just a ninja anymore, he was basically a god. He completely humiliated all 5 Kage at the same time, wrangled all 9-tailed beasts in a matter of minutes, and unlocked 6 Paths Senjutsu. Armed with those floating truth-seeking orbs that just instantly erase whatever they touch, he was totally untouchable. He single-handedly brought the entire shinobi world to its knees, completely outscaling everyone else in the verse. So, you want to know why Rimuru Tempest is arguably the most broken character in existence? It all starts with a regular old human named Satoru Mikami, who gets reincarnated into a fantasy world as, of all things, a blind, totally basic slime monster. You'd think that's a massive downgrade, right? But here's the catch, he gets an absolutely busted set of skills right from the jump. His main power is called Predator, which essentially lets him consume anything and completely steal its abilities, magic, and even its physical form. He eats monsters, magic ores, and even ancient beings, constantly stacking their powers onto his own. Because of this, his evolution is completely off the charts. He goes from a standard slime to a demon slime, fully awakening as a true demon lord. This grants him absurd raw power and the ability to basically rewrite the rules of magic. But he doesn't stop there. By the end of his evolutionary line, Rimuru literally becomes an ultimate slime, putting him in the same tier as a true dragon. We're talking about the absolute peak of supernatural life forms in this universe. What makes Rimuru truly terrifying, though, isn't just his raw power, it's his mind, or rather, his partner, CL. CL is an incredibly advanced, hyper-intelligent cognitive core living inside his head that calculates, strategizes, and perfectly optimizes every single spell and ability he has. It's like having a supercomputer constantly running combat simulations and tweaking reality in his favor. Even though he looks like a harmless, incredibly pretty teenager with silver blue hair, Rimuru is incredibly calculative. He might act like a laid-back guy who just wants to build a comfortable, lazy world to live in, but if you actually threaten his friends or his country, he flips a switch. He can effortlessly wipe out entire armies without batting an eye. When you combine his infinite capacity to absorb new powers, his ultimate evolution into a true dragon equivalent, and the supercomputer brain managing it all, Rimuru basically becomes an untouchable god masquerading as a cute little slime. So, you want to talk about the absolute pinnacle of power in Dragon Ball? Forget Ultra Instinct, forget Gods of Destruction, and forget the Angels. The undisputed strongest character in the entire franchise is a tiny, childlike being known as Grand Zeno, or the Omni King. At first glance, Zeno looks completely harmless. He's extremely short, has a large, oval-shaped head colored blue and purple, and speaks with a high-pitched, childish voice. He usually just hangs out in his palace, acting naive and treating the multiverse like a giant playground. But do not let his cute appearance fool you, his power is literally absolute. Unlike characters like Goku or Beerus, Zeno doesn't actually fight. He doesn't use martial arts, and he actually has trouble tracking super high-speed movements during battles. But he doesn't need to fight because his main ability is simply called Erase. With a tiny flick of his wrist or a simple thought, Zeno can completely wipe anything from existence. We are talking about individual people, immortal beings, entire planets, galaxies, or even an entire universe all at once in the blink of an eye. In fact, the multiverse originally had 18 universes. When Zeno got into a bad mood one day, he casually deleted 6 of them without breaking a sweat. His power is so terrifyingly absolute that even gods of destruction like Beerus and Champa, who can blow up planets with a sneeze, will instantly drop to their knees and shake in sheer terror the moment Zeno walks into the room. According to the Supreme Kai, Zeno is completely unkillable. Even when entire timelines are destroyed, he just floats there in the empty void, totally unfazed. Because he is so feared, almost everyone treats him like a fragile, terrifying bomb. That's actually why he likes Goku so much. Goku is the only person who treats him like a normal friend, giving him nicknames and shaking his hand instead of bowing down. But ultimately, when you can literally hit the delete button on all of reality just because you're bored or annoyed, you are easily the most overpowered entity in existence. Nobody else even comes close. In the Tenchi Muyo universe, the absolute peak of existence is a supreme entity commonly known by the fan-made title Kami Tenchi, which translates to the god of heaven and earth. The reason it's just a fan name is that this being is the ultimate authority in the official continuity and doesn't actually have a definitive title. It simply exists above everything. To really put his scale into perspective, you have to look at the Chushin. The Chushin are god-tier entities who already completely transcend dimensions, non-existence, logic, and all known scientific theories. But Kami Tenchi is as boundless and unimaginable to the Chushin as those gods are to a normal human. He totally dwarfs beings that already break the fundamental laws of reality. When you try to measure his actual stats, normal physics and concepts just fall apart. He is currently classified at a low hyperversal level, putting him securely in the low 1B tier for destructive capability, range, and durability. He possesses immeasurable physical strength, limitless stamina, and is literally omnipresent, meaning he exists everywhere simultaneously. On top of that, he wields complete reality warping, time travel, light manipulation, and true flight. He is essentially entirely omniscient and omnipotent. Because Kami Tenchi has absolutely zero known limitations or weaknesses, and there is nothing in his universe that sits above or even equal to him, power scalers constantly debate whether he should actually be pushed into high 1A or even the absolute highest rank, tier 0. He is simply the undisputed, limitless ceiling of his franchise. In the world of Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, the ultimate peak of strength belongs to the protagonist himself, Simon the Digger. He doesn't start off as a legendary warrior. In fact, he begins the story as a shy, unassuming orphan boy in a subterranean village who is simply excellent at digging tunnels. But over the course of the series, driven by the loss of his loved ones and the unyielding belief of his blood brother Kamina, Simon evolves into an absolute beacon of sheer willpower for all of humanity. What makes Simon overwhelmingly powerful isn't magic or divine intervention, it's spiral power. In this universe, spiral power is the energy of evolution and fighting spirit, and Simon possesses a virtually infinite amount of it. By the climax of the story, his mastery over this energy essentially turns him into a reality warping god, even though he humbly refuses to view himself as one. His feats are genuinely ridiculous on a cosmic scale. During the final war, Simon creates a pocket universe from scratch, just so his ultimate mech, the Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, has enough space to materialize. He alters the gravity of an entire battlefield to draw surrounding galaxies toward him, using them as literal armor. At one point, his battle cry alone is described as shaking an entire galaxy. Even without his towering mechs, Simon is an unstoppable force. His spiral power grants him insane superhuman physical traits. He can bend probability, meaning he can land hits on enemies whose defenses make the chance of victory absolute zero. He can negate the regeneration abilities of universal threats, and even perform molecular transmutation, like turning his iconic digger goggles into star-shaped sunglasses or forging a massive drill entirely out of spilled blood. During a brutal fistfight, Despite having the implied power to resurrect the dead or rule the cosmos, Simon's greatest strength is his character. He deliberately chooses not to abuse his omnipotent abilities, ensuring the universe remains balanced. He ultimately steps down from his role as the Supreme Commander of Earth, choosing to wander the world simply as Simon the Digger. He is a man who literally pierced the heavens, conquered a threat that spanned dimensions, and yet remained completely grounded, proving that true power is knowing when to let it go. Son Goku is easily one of the most recognizable powerhouses in all of fiction, and his story essentially defines the modern martial arts epic. Born as a Saiyan named Kakarot, he was originally sent to Earth as an infant with the instinct to destroy. But after a lucky head injury wiped out his aggressive programming, he was raised by a martial artist named Grandpa Gohan, and grew up to become the planet's greatest defender. What really drives Goku isn't some complex desire to be a superhero. Instead, he just has an unshakable, pure obsession with fighting the strongest opponents he can find. This constant drive to break his own limits is what pushes him to train relentlessly, eventually unlocking legendary transformations like the iconic golden-haired Super Saiyan, which was actually inspired by Bruce Lee's paralyzing glare, all the way up to god-level states like Ultra Instinct. His abilities are staggering. He possesses world-shattering physical strength, blinding speed, and mastery over his internal energy, known as Ki, which lets him fly and fire devastating blasts like the Kamehameha. On top of his raw power, Goku is an absolute combat genius. He might struggle with basic math or holding down a regular farming job, but in a fight, he learns instantly, adapting to his opponents and inventing new techniques on the fly. Yet, his most dangerous and defining trait might just be his pure heart and mercy. Goku genuinely believes people can change for the better, often sparing his deadliest enemies in hopes of fighting them again someday. This compassion has occasionally backfired and put the universe at risk, but it has also turned some of his fiercest rivals, like Piccolo and Vegeta, into his closest allies. He is the ultimate blank slate, a guy who just wants a good fight, loves a good meal, and will shatter the boundaries of the universe to protect the people he cares about. When you look at powerhouses in shows like Naruto or Jujutsu Kaisen, there's usually some complex cursed energy or chakra system involved, along with years of intense training. But in the world of One Punch Man, the absolute strongest being is just an ordinary guy named Saitama who literally trained so hard his hair fell out. Saitama doesn't have magical energy or a complicated bloodline. He was just an average salaryman who decided to do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run every single day. Somehow, this mundane workout routine completely removed his physical limiter. The result is a hero who possesses such incomprehensible, godlike physical prowess that he defeats almost any enemy in the universe with a single, careless punch. His physical feats are almost comical in their scale. He can jump from the moon back to Earth in seconds, generating a crater in the lunar surface just from the takeoff. He can withstand the heat of an incinerating blast without a single burn, catch a ninja's sword between his teeth to shatter it, and part the clouds across the entire planet with the shockwave of a punch. During a fight on one of Jupiter's moons, a mere sneeze from Saitama was powerful enough to blow away half of the gas giant's atmosphere. He can even move so fast that he creates countless afterimages or runs across the surface of the ocean. However, his overwhelming power is actually his biggest tragic flaw, because absolutely nothing poses a threat to him, not even alien conquerors or cosmic horrors. He suffers from a deep existential boredom. He originally became a hero for fun, but the thrill of battle is completely gone when every fight ends in one hit. So, while he remains the undisputed peak of physical strength, he spends most of his time looking for bargain sales at the supermarket, playing video games, and just trying to feel a spark of excitement again. When you dive into the power scaling side of visual novels, especially umineko, when they cry, you inevitably hit a massive, unbeatable wall. Featherine Augustus Aurora. If characters from other universes break the fourth wall, Featherine is the one who built it. She holds the title of the Witch of Theater-going, Drama, and Spectating, and is widely considered the absolute strongest entity in her entire franchise. To understand her level of power, you have to look at her rank. Featherine isn't just a magic user, she holds the rank of a creator. This means her abilities go far beyond simply throwing magical attacks or altering physics. She literally spins entire narrative worlds into existence. She views the universe and its characters as nothing more than a fictional story, and she has the ability to rewrite the plot, change reality, and manipulate events exactly as they are happening to her. Because she transcends the concepts of life, death, and logic, fighting her is like a fictional character trying to attack the person writing their book. In terms of appearance, she projects herself as an elegant, composed woman, wearing a stunning dress that resembles a traditional Japanese kimono, radiating an aura of ancient wisdom. But this majestic appearance hides a terrifyingly indifferent personality. She views humans as so far beneath her that she doesn't even bother to learn their names. After living for over a millennium, she suffers from extreme boredom, seeing it as a fatal illness, and uses the conflicts and tragedies of others purely as entertainment to pass the time. She also commands a personal guard made up of cosmic overlords that take the form of cats. These aren't just pets. Each one is essentially the fully realized, final form protagonist of an entirely different universe, and she uses them casually to cast high-level magic. However, she does have one incredibly specific weakness. Floating around her head is a metallic, horseshoe-shaped object. This isn't just a fashion choice, it's actually a memory storage device. Because she is so impossibly ancient, she relies on this device to maintain her name, appearance, and personality. If it were ever damaged, she would lose her sense of self and essentially become a completely different person. But considering she literally dictates the script of reality, managing to land a hit on that device is virtually impossible. When we talk about ridiculously overpowered anime protagonists, it's impossible not to bring up Anis Voltigode from the Misfit of Demon King Academy. In his universe, he isn't just strong, he is the literal Demon King of Tyranny, reincarnated into a new age where his immense power is completely misunderstood by his own descendants. 2,000 years ago, Anis was the absolute ruler of a chaotic, war-torn world. He actually grew tired of the endless fighting between demons, humans, spirits, and gods. To force a lasting peace, he voluntarily sacrificed his own life to build massive walls separating the four races, promising to reincarnate after 2 millennia. When he finally comes back, his magical power is so monumental that standard measuring crystals instantly shatter just trying to read it. He often restricts himself to using less than 10% of his true strength simply because going all out might accidentally destroy the world. He isn't just throwing giant energy blasts either. Anos has the physical strength to effortlessly lift an entire castle with one hand and spin it on his finger. At one point, he casually reaches out and physically moves the moon just to create a solar eclipse. His magical capabilities are even more insane. His sheer existence is rooted in destruction, to the point that if his source is ever damaged, it spews a highly corrosive black blood that can melt away the fundamental laws of reality and even the powers of the gods. As a combat genius, he can look at a highly complex spell Formula 1 that would take an expert a month to decipher and instantly rewrite it into a far superior version on the spot. Despite his terrifying title and ruthless combat style, Anis actually has a very strong moral compass. He never wanted to be a tyrant. The world just labeled him one because of his overwhelming dominance. In reality, he deeply values his friends, cares for his followers, and firmly believes in showing mercy when it's deserved. He's the perfect example of a character who possesses universe-breaking strength but uses it to protect the people he loves. In the universe of Bleach, the absolute peak of power belongs to Yhwach, the Quincy King, and the son of the Soul King himself. He is the progenitor of the entire Quincy race, possessing an ability that sets him apart from virtually any other character in the series, the power to share pieces of his own soul. As an infant, Yhwach was born completely paralyzed, blind, and deaf. However, anyone who simply touched him would have their physical, mental, or spiritual ailments cured as a fragment of his soul entered their body. When those people eventually died, that soul fragment, along with all their accumulated knowledge, skills, and power, would return to Yhwach, slowly allowing his own body to function and making him immensely powerful. He later weaponized this by carving a specific letter called a shrift into the souls of his elite soldiers, granting them terrifying unique abilities which he could forcefully take back at any time through a process called Oswellen. But his true, unparalleled strength comes from his own personal shrift, A, which stands for the Almighty. This is arguably one of the most broken abilities in all of anime. The Almighty doesn't just allow Yhwach to see the future. It allows him to see every possible future simultaneously, like looking at countless grains of sand. More terrifyingly, he can actively choose and alter which of those futures becomes reality. If he is killed in battle, he can simply rewrite the future so that his death never happened. If an opponent has a powerful weapon or technique, he can alter the timeline so that it breaks before it can even be used against him. Furthermore, any power he sees with the Almighty becomes completely useless against him. Driven by a desire to eliminate the fear of death entirely, Yhwach's ultimate goal was to collapse the boundaries between the human world, the Soul Society, and Hueco Mundo, merging them back into a single, chaotic, deathless void. Between his overwhelming spiritual pressure, his absolute control over Reishi, and his ability to literally rewrite the timeline to his advantage, Yhwach stands as an almost insurmountable, godlike entity within the Bleach cosmology.